Ladies and gentlemen, welcome to Linked In for August 15th, 2012. My name is Link, bringing you community interaction and gaming discussions. To submit a question, please read the description below. And as for the background, we have some Ragnar highlights for the beginning and just some gameplay at the end. I got into a bot game and played about 50 minutes of them. And, I really don't know yet. Although, I'm played a little bit more of him, and there will be, after this video, there will be the Rengar champion preview, so please stick around for that. Sorry for no Linked In on Monday. I have a cousin visiting from Florida, so I kind of spent time with them instead of making a video. Also, I do suggest you people go back and watch all of the Awesomenauts video. I'm not allowed to tell you why, but you should try and watch to the very end. Also, another thing is, I'm finally a YouTube partner, which you can tell by the annoying ads, by the mini banner. Go to my page, and you'll see all that new stuff. And I have custom thumbnails, so that's a thing, and I'm very happy about it. Okay, so anyway, let's get to the first question. The first question is as follows, and it is by TopoyiOMG. What? Anyway, hey Link. What would you think of a Malphite as a jungler? Thank you. What do I think of Malphite as a jungler? Let's pull up his wiki page and let's see. So, Malphite, I've seen him actually played as a jungler quite a lot, and he's very effective. Now, you're probably wondering why. Well, he has higher health scaling than Rammus does. Rammus scales and gets 80 health per level. He gets a full 90 per level, along with getting about 4 armor. Now, this means his armor and his health scale is high, so he has very early and quick sustainability within the jungle. Now, then we can go straight down to his passive, which helps him quite a bit, which for his 10% of his max health, which is pretty much every level, he gets an extra 1 point to his shield. He gets this little shield, so when he starts out, he gets a 40 point shield health. He gets 40 points in a shield, which mitigates some of the beginning damage. Then we can go to, I'm going to go these out of order. We can start off with Brutal Strikes. Brutal Strikes is his main form of jungle damage, and this is what makes him so effective. He can target the main minion within a jungle camp, and the splash damage will kill the smaller minions while he's doing this. Now, passively, it splashes damage on a base percentage to all nearby enemies. Now, upon activating this, it increases his armor and attack damage by a percentage for 6 seconds. Now, this actually has a quite low mana cost at low levels, and is very good for clearing camps early. Now, once you reach level 2, you put up a point to Ground Slam. Now, Ground Slam goes really well with Brutal Strike. What I mean by that is it does its magic damage in an AoE, and it reduces attack speed. So, reduces attack speed so that they won't attack you as much, and also lowers their attack, or lowers their health in an AoE. This has a flat cooldown along with, I think, all of his abilities. And this is very good because you can activate Brutal Strikes, get your armor buff, and then activate Ground Slam because it actually goes up with armor. This is very good for starting a camp. You run up, you activate Brutal Strike, hit a couple times, hit Ground Slam, and then finish off with Brutal Strike. But upon reaching level 3, you'll have even a better option to actually move in between camp and camp. You have Seismic Shard. Seismic Shard, as you all know, steals movement speed, so you can hit the main minion once you're done with the camp with it to get to the next camp as quicker. So this allows you to have the ability to essentially move between camps faster and faster and faster as you level it up. Now, for Jungle Malphite, you're supposed to level up. You're supposed to put 2 points into Brutal Strikes, 1 point into Ground Slam, and then max Seismic Shard, then max Ground Slam, then max Brutal Strikes. Now, this is where he gets really good as a jungler. So, we all know Malphite. He's big, he's tanky, and he's kind of hits hard if he has enough armor. Now, when it comes to jungling, and his gank potential is amazing. So the enemies are pushed up. We're going to talk about bottom lane. So the enemies are pushed up to about the equivalent of the opening of the river on the blue side. It's purple team pushing up. Well, Malphite's going to come out through Tribush, and he will be seen by a sight ward. So he will be able to run up, and they're already retreating. He can hit a minion, steal the minion's movement speed, and get closer to start doing some damage, along with any CCs that could be happening by the blue team. Now, say there isn't a ward, he can actually hit a champion, get the slow on the champion, and go in there and start doing the damage. Now, these slows actually last pretty long. This slow lasts for 4 seconds, which is decently a long time. Now, upon reaching level 6, Malphite really doesn't have to worry about this. He has Unstoppable Force, which is an AoE of damage yet again, but he gets pushed to target location and knocks up all nearby enemies. So this gank is pretty much brutal. So you run in there, you knock them up, you activate your shards, and then you activate your AoE. So right there's your initial burst damage, along with extra damage on your basic attacks. You hit with your Q, which is your seismic shard, and you stay with your target to do as many basics as you can while the other people in the lane are helping you. This is another reason why Jungle Malphite is so good. Now, the main reason is junglers need health when they start and armor. Malphite exceeds when he has armor, so that's pretty much what allows him to jungle so efficiently. Okay, on to question 2. Hey Link, what are your thoughts on alternate builds for champions like AP Tryndamere and AD Kennen? This is by Kill War Incorporated. Okay, so let's see. AP Tryndamere, kinda useless. AD Kennen, well, they're actually all, if they're not built the correct way, they're kinda useless. But there's champions out there that they aren't useless, but they are useless. Let's take APE, for example. APE has ungodly burst potential. What I mean by that is you can be hit once by one of his skills and you're pretty much, your health pool gets melted. And he can also heal himself really well with his meditate. But what does he lack? He lacks the ability to finish off a target unless he's built correctly. And this mitigates from his AP. Now, we're not talking strictly about AP here, so let's look at Tristana. AP Tristana has burst damage, but then she also has that annoying Ignite-esque ability with her Buster Shot. This, in essence, is what makes that build strong, but unless she can get her early feed, she is useless late game, like almost all of these troll builds. Now, I've played hybrid Kennen before, which wasn't the smartest idea. I built attack speed and magic, or ability power. I kind of built him like an AP, or an AD team-up. And I found this to work somewhat, because the increased attack speed gave me increased movement speed. I built a Zeal or a Phantom Dancer into a Lichbane. And this allowed me to have increased movement speed, so I was actually able to get near my targets. And I was wasting the mana, but I was messing around, so there's not really much to say about that. As for any other builds that are like troll builds, or alternate builds as you put it, I'd have to say, what's another good one? AP Lulu's not really an alternate build, but AP Lulu, along with all AP supports, are generally overpowered because they're ratios. And also, they're not meant to be played that way, which is why they have ungodly ratios. So they can get something like a Cage's Lucky Pick, and it'll actually make a difference. Unlike some champions where you get a Cage's Lucky Pick and it's 3 damage difference. Now, let's see, who's somebody that I've seen played AD? I've seen AD Sona before, and she actually was pretty decent. Mostly because she has buffs. She can buff her speed, then use Q, and then after that, go back to the speed buff, hit you with the slow, and then stick on you, along with healing herself during this fight, or adding a stun if you decide to flash. But alternate builds are fun, and I feel that they should stick to blind pick, bots, and Aram games. Okay, on to the big question that I've been waiting to get to. Dear Link, ... Diana was just released, and people are continuously calling her OP and broken, and that Riot should fix her. Do you feel like she should be changed in any way, and do you know if there is any change coming to Diana soon? This is sent in by TJS, whose username I still can't remember why it's familiar. Okay, so we pretty much here have Diana. Diana is Diana, and it's interesting. Her build, it's just blah. It's hard to explain. But before I get to this, let me pull up her wiki page, and there is no changes to Diana coming in the near future, to what I know, not at least in the Rengar patch. Maybe in the Teak patch, which Teak was Rengar. They changed his name. We actually don't know if there's any, like, what the next new champion's even base name's gonna be, so Riot's been hiding that. So we don't see any changes in the future, so I'm not sure. Okay, so she is not OP, she might be broken, but how do I think they could fix her? Okay, one, that gives additional 20% attack speed. Just put that on her so that it doesn't, like, mess up skills. Like, if you put a Zeal on her, you're not getting the full attack speed buff. You're getting like half, which really kind of messes up your actual champion, like the build potential. Just put that on her. Just that needs to happen. Moonsilver Blade. This I'm talking about her passive here. Now, one thing I could see changed is increase the base damage and lower the ratio, or vice versa, because early game she needs this for jungling. So actually, I'd see increase the base damage and lower the ratio. Why lower the ratio and increase the base damage? Increasing the base damage will allow her to clear jungles quicker and allow her to have more ganks. Now, increasing the ratio, or decreasing the ratio, will allow her to be able to still build up and keep that damage sustainable, but not to the point where it takes a lot of your health away. I'd like to see maybe 10% of the ability power taken away, so it's 0.5 and not 0.6. As for Crescent Strike, I see no real issues with this. The only thing I'd have to say is an issue with Crescent Strike is its travel time. I mean, that is what it's meant to actually get to its target, but when I was playing her, I'd use it and people could see, like, so early, and they'd be already way out of the radius, and they'd only have level 1 boots, and I'd have level 2. Now, this was actually fixed so they can be hit by the trail, so you can actually kind of chase them with it, and that's one reason they fixed it. Actually, this skill is underpowered, to say the least. It's got great base damage scaling, but the ratios are a little high. It's 80%. I'd like to see maybe 75%, because sure, it is her main form of damage, but it does do a nice chunk of damage. But I have to say, the ratio for the flat per mana, the flat cost, is decent. Maybe up it to 60, just so it's an even number. And that leads me into Pale Cascade. Pale Cascade has quite the interesting abilities, or, well, the interesting everything. So she creates the spears around her that detonate on contact, yada yada. Now this is used in tandem with her actually attaching to you after using Lunar Rush. Now, the shield strength needs to be increased. The shield is barely enough to actually be a shield. I mean, it does 150 at level 6. Now, what I'd like to see is the ratios increased on that and leave the base the same. She still needs it for jungling, so I'd say increase the ratio from 40% to maybe 50 or 60. So it's a more viable shield and not just more of a don't hurt me minions shield. Damage per orb and maximum damage per orb, I see no issues with that. That's nice damage. If you get hit by all 3 of them, that's your fault because you stayed next to her that long or you got caught in Moonfall. And yeah, so if you actually manage to get hit with that, you're looking at around 300 damage plus 20% of all of her ability power. That's pretty nicely scaled. Now we are going on to Moonfall, which there's no possible bad thing about Moonfall. It's completely balanced. It slows for 2 seconds, which is good because that's about how long it takes for all 3 orbs to orbit at least once. Well, about 150%, which is 1.5 times. So that is good. It allows them to be slowed so she can actually do her damage. Now, the cooldown reduction on it is perfect. The slow amount is perfect. Moonfall is perfectly balanced on Diana. Now, on to Lunar Rush, which is where most of the hate is coming for Diana. And I see a little bit of this, but I don't understand why. Now, one thing I have to say is increase the range of it, because it needs to be the same range as Lunar, or as Crescent Strike. Crescent Strike can only reach 830. Oh wait, they buffed it. Never mind. It used to be only 800. So they did buff it. Yeah, Crescent Strike can only get to 830, and they actually buffed it to 900 now, so never mind that little grief. So what we have here is a little bit of what to not do against Diana. Now I'll get into a story in a second, but let's first get to the point where it's mana cost. Mana cost is great. In tandem with her Q, you're spending about 100 to 150 per cast. Of both of these, mind you. So that means that she's using quite a bit of her mana, and she doesn't really get mana abilities. I mean, I had a not a Phantom Dancer, wow, Lichbane on her, and I was still managing to run out of mana. This is what really balances her. She can stay in a team fight and kill, but then once she starts using her skills to actually hurt, well, then that's your issue. And that is about that. Now, as for cooldown goes, it is meant to be a spammable ulti, and if you have to use it 2 times in tandem, you need to have a lower cooldown, which those are great. The damage per level is great. The scaling, if anything, should be increased. Most of her damage comes from her basic attacks and her Q. This is meant to get to the target. I'd like to see this maybe 65% instead of just 60. And yeah, so I honestly think she's a little bit underpowered, and people are just, they don't know how to fight against her. Now, I mean, I played Ryze in mid against her, and how did I manage to beat her? Well, I rushed a Banshee's Veil, so I could actually run after her. She'd use her Q to try and get me hit with the Moonlight debuff, and I'd still be able to go after her, get her in Rune Prison, get her in a nice combo, and get her away from me. So this deterred her from actually wanting to go after me while she was still in that. Or if she actually did land it when my Banshee's Veil wasn't up, I'd be able to snare her and do damage. She's actually very easily countered by people like Ziggs, Ryze, and pretty much anyone that has a small amount of CC. She's also kind of countered by Twisted Fate because of his cards. And that's actually why those are my 3 favorite mids. Ryze, Ziggs, and Twisted Fate. Ryze counters about half the people, Ziggs the other half, and Twisted Fate counters the troll picks, and he counters some of the uncounterables because of his range on his Q. But that is me done for the day. I will see you all on Friday. And remember, check out the Awesomenauts video and watch all the way to the end. Don't skip to the end, because if you actually do, you won't be able to... I already said too much. So, this has been a nice sized LinkedIn to make up for Mondays. Anyway, if you enjoyed the content provided, leave a like. You want to stay current, subscribe, and I'll talk to you all later.